Welcome back to Dummy Boy Finance. I'm Dummy Boy, and right now I want to talk over High Tide's earnings. So they dropped their Q1 earnings, and there's a lot of good stuff in there that I want to talk about. And there's also some good news that came out of High Tide being listed on the Horizons ETF. So I want to go over all of that right now. So right now we're looking at High Tide's first quarter 2021 financial results. And so the biggest headlines you can already see is a 179% increase in revenue year over year. So that's extremely bullish. And so we're just going to quickly glance over the financial highlights from this report. So the first one obviously is the 179% increase in revenue. And so what does that look like? That looks like 38.3 million this year compared to 13.7 in the same quarter last year. And so the reason why we're starting to see a substantial increase in revenue is because we are now starting to show revenue from the acquisition of Meta Growth. And so that is obviously extremely bullish. You can see gross profit increased by 208%. Absolutely stunning. So you can see 14.8 million in the first quarter compared to 4.8 in the last. Gross profit margin up 39%. Adjusted EBITDA is now positive, was negative last year. The biggest point I want to talk about from these highlights is actually this one right here. And so geographically, they show us exactly how much revenue they got from each location. And so I wanted to mention, obviously Canada brings in the most, and we brought in about 34.2 in Q1. And so remember, in Canada, recreational marijuana is legal. And United States, it is not. And so this number right here is going to continue to grow, this 3.9, as well as the 0.2 million internationally. So you can already see what these numbers tell you is that High Tide has a strong foothold in Canada. This is one of the first nations to federally legalize cannabis, and so we're starting to see increase in revenues within the country. And so the next target location is obviously the United States, and this 3.9 is extremely minuscule. And so I actually have a belief that over the long run, High Tide will actually generate more revenue in the United States than they do in Canada. And so if we're looking at trajectories, we're seeing the Canada revenues continue to go up. We're looking at an untouched United States market that hasn't federally legalized it yet. We're starting to see specific states start to legalize it. And so as we start to see a lot more of that legalization start happening in the United States, this number will organically start to grow. There's a lot more numbers in the United States. The acquisition of Smoke Cartel and the acquisition of Grass City, having that e-commerce platform in the United States is going to be hugely beneficial for High Tide in the long term. And obviously we aren't seeing too much internationally, but I know this 0.2 is also going to grow internationally. I personally believe cannabis in an age where now people are starting to be isolated a lot more are going to depend on the use of cannabis instead of something like alcohol. I feel like it is going to be a generational switch into a vice, and in this case the vice is cannabis. And so that is why I'm so bullish overall in the industry, but I'm more specifically bullish on High Tide. We're seeing extraordinary management execution here. We're seeing revenue increases year over year with this company. We are seeing major acquisitions that are going to pinpoint and tackle very strategic parts of the market that they're trying to target. And so everything that this company is doing looks extremely bullish. We are trading at a minuscule $500 million market cap for a company that will be worth billions in the future. And so right now we are at a very crucial point in High Tide. We are looking at a company that is extraordinarily outperforming the numbers that people are setting out for them. And so with a top tier management and CEO in Raj, I do believe in the management of this company, and they are doing everything to show shareholders that this is a bright company and a long-term investment that people shouldn't really be worried about. And so the second thing I just quickly wanted to mention here is the Horizons ETF is an ETF that basically composes of a lot of the cannabis plays. And so this is going to give you a lot of exposure to cannabis if you don't want to just specifically take one stock. And so on this ETF, we actually saw 11 constituents that were added, and of these 11, you could go through them. I'm not going to go through all of them. In addition to that, when they were rebalancing this ETF, there were another 15 added, and so we're looking at High Tide right here being one of those 15. And if we kind of just look at what exchange these trade on, you could see this is a Canadian Security Exchange, and then this we have on the TSX, and we have this on the NASDAQ. So just in terms of listing, this one does definitely have a better exchange than the rest of these. And you can see the CSE is Canadian. A lot of these companies are going to be basing out of Canada. This company has a foothold in Canada already and are going to continue their expansion outside of Canada. So I'm extremely bullish with what I'm seeing with High Tide. We continue to open up stores in Canada. We got uplisted and now we are onto an ETF that is going to show a lot of exposure to investors in general, which should add up to a larger share price in the short term. So right now we're looking at High Tide on the daily time frame. If I scroll down here, you can just see the annual performance here. We have just been increasing revenue, extremely steady performance here on High Tide. In one of the conference calls that I did see, they do peg themselves to have a share price by the end of the year at around $1.40. And so at current prices of 84 cents, that is an extremely nice upside right now. In terms of current price action, we have our 50 SMA that is about to break out of our wedge. Our price action in general is outside of this wedge. And so with this formation kind of just building up, this should give us a nice little bounce to the upside. Our MACD is positive. We did have a slight crossover to the downside, but I do believe in the short term we could get a test of this 50 SMA. And I've been mentioning this a lot. I really want to see that bounce off the 50 SMA. We really want to see the back test to see how strong this performance really is. Throughout this entire run up, we have not seen a test of this 50 SMA. So I'd love to see that here in the short term. And then from that point on, we will get a better sense of direction of where this one goes. If we stay above this 50, it's only a matter of time until we start to see larger moves to the upside. There's just way too much good news out there for this stock to be pinned down for so long. And so I just wanted to make this quick little update video on High Tide. I know I'm a little late to the earnings, but I wanted to update all of you who are also following High Tide. Also remember, there is a link to my free Discord in the description. If you guys want to have a chat with me, have real life conversations in real time about stock. Overall, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like. We are on the road to 10K subs, so if you made it to this point, feel free to hit that subscription button. This is Dummy Boy Finance. I'm Dummy Boy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.